Hello everybody, Vince Venturella here again. Just want to make a quick video to talk about fun. Yeah, that's what we're going to talk about. So, uh, after the holidays, I finally caught up on all the videos, and there's been a lot of talk going around from more channels than I can mention about fun and balance and lists and special characters and things like that. And I won't go into the details of all that. Just, check out the Warhammer YouTubers and you'll see everything that's there. And but most notably, I think what occurred to me is that I found it interesting that so many people could talk about fun and each seem to have an opinion about it. And we all seem to agree that we want to have fun, but the problem is no one seems to agree what exactly that means. And I think there's a reason for that. Um, in all the discussions about fun that I've heard, I haven't heard anybody address sort of the underlying issue. And to me, that's very simple. That's psychology. So I told you that my background's previous videos. I've told you my background's in game design. A game designer that I'm a very big fan of. That if you don't know, you should check out Mark Rosewater. Mark Rosewater is the lead designer for Magic the Gathering. He has written, I don't know, more than 2 million words on Magic the Gathering in a series of weekly articles. Many of them are quite illuminating if you have any interest in game design, so I do highly recommend you check that out. But what I want to talk about that Rosewater brought up quite many years ago was the idea of psychographic profiling. So there's this concept of psychographic profiling that Wizards of the Coast uses when they design Magic cards. And effectively what it means is this. There are three core psychographic profiles that they design cards for. And those are Timmy, Johnny, and Spike. Okay? Well, what does that mean? What's a psychographic profile? Well, in short, it's how that person has fun playing their game. Okay? Because it turns out not everybody has fun the same way. All right? Now that seems probably patently obvious when I first say it. But there's a lot to this, and I feel like a lot of people have been scratching around the edges of it without addressing it directly. So what I mean by psychographic profile and how these get deployed is when you play a game. Now, these were developed for Magic, but I feel many of them are applicable to Warhammer, being that it's similar in construction as a game. That is to say, though we're using figures instead of cards, it's still generally one-on-one with both players having an equal number of sort of resources, the same resources available to them, i.e. points and army lists or whatever. And they both design independently and then meet and face in some sort of mono challenge where theoretically one shall stand and one shall fall, right? So there are a lot of similarities to the experience. It's not exactly the same, but similarities. Um, and so what these psychographic profiles aim to identify is the experience you are seeking by stepping up to the table. Now that's very important. We're talking about being at the table. One of the interesting elements of Warhammer that isn't there as much for Magic is how much of the game is not taking place at the table. That is to say, it's a Warhammer sort of an iceberg game. Only about 10% of your fun happens at the table. The other 90% is probably spent list building and hobbying and thinking about future armies and collecting and you can whatever, reading the stories. I don't care. There's all this other stuff, and that's the other 90%. But what we're talking about right now is that tip of the iceberg. You're at the table. What is the experience you want to have? Because theoretically, the other 90% is all leading to that point, so it's pretty important. So let's return to Timmy, Johnny, and Spike. Now, if you want to see the original information on this, I'll put the link below to the Magic Wiki that has the sort of brief descriptions of these. And that also should contain the links to Mark Rosewater's original articles. But if you just search for Timmy, Johnny, Spike, if you Google that, you'll find both of his articles. They are very informative. I highly recommend them. Okay, so what's occurred to me is that as people talk past each other in these videos, which not to segue again, but real quick I want to say this is a fantastic time to be a Warhammer player and to be engaged in the community. How wonderful is it to have this amount of dialogue? Like, I get to all these great videos of people talking about it. Yes, there's some occasional like friction, but on the whole, this is so much more energy in the community, and I think that's just a fantastic thing, and we should all be happy about it. So, you know, don't be scared of the change. It's at the very least, it causes a lot of conversation and interest in all of us, and energy is a good thing. All right, so the psychographic profiles: Timmy, Johnny, Spike. Okay, Timmy is often called the power gamer, but that's going to create the wrong sort of images in your mind. What Timmy wants is to have a very visceral experience while playing. So, in Magic terms, Timmy likes big cards, big creatures, forces of nature, stuff like that. Or just big wins, things that crap out a lot of tokens. Would be fun for Timmy. Cards that he sees as fair. They have very high casting costs, but they also have very big effects. So that's what Timmy likes. Timmy doesn't really care about the innate power of the individual thing. It's often about how cool that thing is and how sweet it would be if that thing punched his opponent in the face. Timmy likes to win, but his fun isn't necessarily in winning. If he has a turn where he drops off some giant monster and berserks it and does 20 damage, but the opponent had 21 life, and he ends up losing the game, Timmy probably still walks away feeling good about himself. Now, what that means is that Timmy wants to win, but his experience isn't wrapped up in winning. It's about playing these things he perceives as fun and having them go smash his opponent. So what he likes is to have big, fun, cool things and be able to use his toys. Okay? So that's the first one. In Warhammer, what we would say is, probably I often fall into this category. If you can see this shelf behind me, you can see lots of like War Sphinxes and Necrosphinxes, and there's a Hierotitan back here. And all these big monsters. I love big monsters. I love painting them, and I love putting them on the table. I don't care if they get cannoned off. I'd rather they didn't, of course. But just when I get to take that Tomb King on a War Sphinx and go charge into my enemy, or have that dragon smash into their line, or whatever, that is a wonderful experience for me. And I love these big monsters. And again, them getting cannoned, maybe at the top of one is a bit annoying, but in general, as long as they get to smash a little bit of things before they die, I'm good with it. It's a positive experience for me, and they're going to show up again the next game. So, that's Timmy. The next up is Johnny, and what Johnny is seeking is he sees the game, in Magic terms, as a sort of creative exploration. So, how this often gets played out is combos. Like, he likes very complex interactions. It's a bit of an intelligence litmus test for him to play the game. He likes to show his or her intelligence through playing the game, by being creative in the way that he plays, the interactions he causes, the decks he builds, etc. So this one's very easy to see in Warhammer. In Warhammer, what Johnny would prefer is he likes unusual things. And one of the keys about Johnny is that he'll use cards many other people in Magic perceive as bad, but he finds ways to make them good through their interactions. So this is in Warhammer, what this would be is people who figure out interesting synergies in a list, or are very smart and tactical about the way the movement phase is, to sort of like set up interesting double fleas to get your opponent to be in a bad situation to where you then capitalize, right? It's a sort of playing the game is a sort of test of intelligence, and to display that intelligence, to put your opponent into situations where you cause them to be in situations they find that not good, right? They get caught in a double flea and then get countercharged, or they get pushed out of balance because of the way you set up, or you use a clever spell, an unusual spell. A very Johnny moment that springs to mind is there was a battle from Once Bitten from a tournament, like, I don't know, last year sometime, when he used the Hurricanum's spin attack, like a spell that nobody ever uses, and he used the spin attack to hit a unit he had put under a fulminating flame cage to basically force them to move. Okay, that's a very Johnny interaction, right? I'm not saying Once Bitten's a Johnny, I'm just saying that, like, that was a very Johnny interaction. Okay? Again, winning, Johnny wants to win. Everybody wants to win, but that's not the experience he values. If he accidentally wins, if he's playing a Skaven player and the Skaven player stuff just blows up, like everything just boom, they get one of those wonderful Skaven games, and he just sort of wins by default, Johnny's probably going to not enjoy that game. That's a bad game. Okay? Because he didn't get to prove his intelligence. The other player just rolled. He wants to, if he wins, it wants it to be because of his intelligence, because of his creativity, because of the way that he interacted. Okay? So then Spike. Spike is the last one. Spike was the last one to be named, according to Mark. It was often just called the tournament player. Okay? Spike wants to win. That is the definitive element of Spike's psychographic profile. He is there to win. This is easy in Magic, it's easy in Warhammer. This is the person showing up with a filthy Comp 0 list, or whatever, okay? Who sees no problem with 50% Lords and having 3 Demon Princes on the table in the right situation, or whatever. You can pick your poison, I don't care. It can be a gun line of 8 War Machines, or whatever you think is the filthiest thing for you, that's fine. The High Elf, Death Banner Star, fine, okay? Brolock buses. Again, almost any army can have some example of this. In Magic terms, Spike sees this as a purely competitive experience. And what matters is at the end of the game that I am alive and you are dead. And that is it. That is the judgment. So losing equals frowny face, winning equals happy face. End of discussion. So if I am at 1 at the end of the game and you are at 0 in a game of Magic, that is as thrilling to me as if I am at 1,000 and you are at 0. That is irrelevant in experience difference. Okay? So that's what Spike wants. And what I see when I hear all these videos talk, before I get to that, let me get to one other thing. Very few people are actually pure examples of these psychographic profiles, by the way. Even in Warhammer terms, when you think about this, I think it'd be interesting if you think about this in terms of what type of player are you. And what you'll probably find is that you can't pigeonhole yourself completely into one of these categories. Chances are you probably are like partially in a couple categories, and that's not uncommon. Most people are 50-50, 70-30, 80-20, something like that. Because there's different elements that pull on them. But you can usually sit, if you picture it like a triangle, right, you usually are sitting, it's rare to be at the point, but you're usually in some area where on the line where you're, in between two of them or something. Okay. So when I see everybody talking past each other, one of the reasons everybody's talking past each other is because when one person says, well, this is fun and you should just do this, I'm just going to call it an example here, but I mean no disrespect by it, I actually have a great amount of respect. When Lord Tremendous says, basically, play whatever you want, play against the hardest person, cut your teeth, prove yourself in the Crucible, that says something about his psychographic profile versus a different person, someone else, who might say, I want to have a sort of balanced experience and win on what I consider kind of even footing, or eliminate these sort of particular elements from the game. Okay. The trick is, both are right. What they're expressing is that is how they're defining their fun within the game. And it's their own psychology that's getting expressed through that. Okay? Because neither of them necessarily is talking about winning. I'm sure that both people want to win. But the key is that that's not the definition of fun. As I was talking about with those 3 psychographic profiles, only one of them actually defines fun by winning. Most define fun by some other element of the experience, and that's the real grist in the mill here that isn't being talked about. So I think that it would behoove the conversation to think about these psychographic profiles and to know what you want out of the game and try to build your game toward that. And sort of talk to your opponents. If you're in a tournament, you're stuck however you are. But when you're with your friends, talk about them and what makes the game fun for you. It isn't just winning. There are deeper levels of experience. Talk about that with your friends and try to build your gaming environment to suit everybody's psychographic profile so that everybody is actually having fun with the experience, win or lose. And if you play with a bunch of spikes, well, then it's really easy. You're all just trying to win and you can all just crush each other all the time. There you go. Thanks a lot. Look forward to your comments below.